We all rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mark, the agenda is all set. Any additions, corrections?
No changes to the agenda, Mayor. We just have some replacement resolutions and additional information that's all at the table, but we can go through it as we go along.
Okay, thank you. No special order. The study session is a repeat or an embellishment of the short-term.
Minutes, we have to do the minutes.
You can do them anytime in the list. You can do them before, you can do them after. Thank you, Michelle. Go ahead.
This is a review again of the proposed short-term rental ordinance, in the R1 and so it's a proposal to allow short-term rentals in the residential district as well as the C2 district, which is mainly our downtown area. In the R1 and the RP district, we would limit it to one single occupant for the short-term rentals. In the other districts, they would be limited by the number of bedrooms with a maximum of 10 people per property, no matter how many bedrooms are on the property. So it'd be 2 people per bedroom with a maximum of 10. And then we limit it to short-term rentals are considered anything that is 28 days or less of a rental. So anything longer than that would be considered a long-term rental or our standard rental policy. We also put in the R1 and RP district that they have to be owner occupied. So that will hopefully help with decreasing the movement that's going around in some areas of Michigan where companies are buying the houses as investment properties and renting them out on a weekly basis for more money than what someone would pay in rent normally, and decreasing the available houses in the community. So that's only in the R1 district that we require the owner occupancy, which is where most of our single family homes are. That's a pretty good rundown of what our ordinance will require. They also will have to do rental inspections, just like all of our other rental properties.
Questions, Commission?
I have one. Can you remind me why the planning commission wanted to put the comment in there that the surrounding neighbors or residents within, I forget exactly, I'm trying to pull up my packet right now, but I can't.
The 300-foot rule.
Yeah, what was the rationale for that?
So they were concerned that if there was a short-term rental going into a neighborhood, that the neighborhood would not know who to contact if there were concerns or questions or issues with that short-term rental. So that requirement was put in to try to safeguard that. Brad brought it up as an example of what Grand Rapids is.
Yeah, I'll take partial credit or consternation for it, but yeah, the city of Grand Rapids does that, and in fact, I got one when I used to live in the city of Grand Rapids for a neighboring property that did it, and so I raised it to the planning commission as a way to address that issue of not knowing who to contact if there's a party house 2 doors down, like how do you address it? And
If
so
the
this-
owner's not there, you.
Right, so the owner, the card just gives a number that says you can call this number in case of, a complaint or something like that, so it's a way for them to know who to contact.
I knew there was a reason, I just needed to be reminded of it. Thank you.
Other questions? I have a question. In the R1, only one person can do the VRBO. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if say it's a Ferris family, they wanna come up and visit their son for 3 days. Well, the father and mother can't come together and rent the VRBO?
How it's written, that is correct. The plan commission went with the one occupant because our current ordinance for a rental only, in the R1 district, only allows one supplemental occupant.
But that's unrelated, that's not the same thing.
That, and I understand why they went that way. I think they went that way so that it wasn't as confusing for people, but two people in a single family home isn't gonna make a bigger
Well-
difference than one person.
I would not support it as written myself. Personally, I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but, you know, if two people, if husband and wife say wanna visit, you can't visit and stay in the VRBO. I just don't get the reasoning there. The reason you gave is unrelated to this, the way I'm describing it.
Right, no, and I understand, and I originally had it written as two people. The plan commission is the one who suggested one. I can take it back to them at this month's meeting.
That's up to other commissioners, I could be outvoted, you know, 4-1, but it just doesn't make logical sense to me. Anybody else have a thought on that issue?
It limits it very much.
I guess I need to read it again as soon as I can pack it up, but that's not what I thought we were doing. I thought it was a family plus I thought it had to be related plus one supplemental occupant for the R1. That's what I thought.
That's for renting an
That is-
R1 house.
That is for R1 house.
But that's not the
long-term-
way,
long-term
Long
rental.
term.
but that's
for
not,
short term,
This is short.
it's just
that's
one
not how it's
occupant.
written.
It just,
Oh,
anybody else, commissioners, think about, have you thought about that? Anyone?
I don't have any issue with two.
So, was the only reason, or Mayor,
Sure, please.
was the only reason, for the change so it would match up and be simplified? Was there no other,
And I think to limit, they were looking to limit it in the R1 as much as possible, which limiting it to one person would probably make it almost non-existent.
unappealing?
Which isn't really what their goal should have been, really, should it? To try to eliminate it by doing that?
I would say if your goal is to eliminate it, you should just not allow it in the R1 district.
do you, sorry, Mary, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, I was.
Do you recall what the other areas that you guys looked at were doing? Were they doing something similar?
I don't remember. Houghton is the community that had the owner occupancy requirement. But other than that, I don't remember occupancy being spelled out by zoning district.
I think it's common to have owner occupied requirements in short-term rental ordinances. It's common to have a cap on occupancy, like the 2 to 10 that Michelle mentioned, outside the R1. I've not seen any others that limit it to one within a specific district. Not to say you can't do it, but it's not something that I've seen in other short-term rental ordinances.
So I have one more question. So if I'm understanding it correctly, then the owner must also be in the home at the, no?
We defined owner occupancy as that they have to, the property has to be a PRE property, which they get personal residency.
But they don't have to be
They
there.
don't have to be there at that
Gotcha.
time. The plan commission discussed doing it both ways, requiring that.
So
the
how would you enforce whether, if a woman brought her husband into the house? I mean, how are you gonna enforce that?
If a neighbor calls and.
Oh dear, that doesn't sound logical. Sorry. Any other questions?
So I just wanna make sure I understand the logic as they talked about it. So in the R1, it's technically, if you look at rentals, right, long-term rentals, it's a single occupant plus one supplemental. Except it doesn't say occupant, it says
The single family.
a single family plus a supplemental occupant. If we're trying to mirror what the long-term rental says, I would think a single occupant plus one supplemental might meet in the middle. Otherwise, we're making it so restrictive that, which I get and I don't get.
Right, that's kind of how I am too.
Well,
Haven't
I
heard
think
from
we,
Amanda, anything? No,
Nope,
John?
you did say.
I think it makes more sense to do what Commissioner Semin just explained, to have it as one occupant to rent it. That seems, very restrictive. And I understand their logic behind that, but most homes aren't going to make their house into a short-term rental, so I don't see it as being a huge issue. I would like to see it be allow for two people, whether it's one person plus one supplemental, or
Right.
just flat out two people.
Mark, you want to add something?
So we have a handful that exist. And in the world of zoning, as I think about it, if a use exists before you change or start a new regulation, there's that whole sort of non-conforming aspect to it. How does that apply to this?
So I'll tackle that one. It has to lawfully exist. So if it lawfully exists on the date the zoning ordinance takes effect, then it can continue as long as it's not changed or expanded. If it's changed or expanded, then it is abolished and they have to go through the current ordinance. But if it didn't lawfully exist, which I think the city's taking the position that right now there's no lawful short-term rentals in the city.
Oh, okay.
So
I
then
didn't,
there wouldn't be a non.
the ones that are operating now are sort of operating,
Outside of the zoning
we
ordinance.
don't have
Right.
anything that says they can do it, but we don't have anything that says they can't.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's nothing that, I mean,
There's just one mayor, I think I've shared with you that the only one that I really know about firsthand, cause it's kinda in an area I go by, and it's in the R1 and they have many more than one occupant. I just don't know.
So she'd have to shut that down as she's running it now.
That one is also not owner occupied.
So she'd have to shut that one down.
That may be an interesting,
I mean,
thing we deal with.
they might try and allege a non-conforming use, but unless it's a lawful use at
Okay.
the time, then it doesn't.
That's gonna be interesting.
can you refresh my memory on where this is in terms of approval by the planning commission?
The plan commission has already recommended approval of the ordinance.
Do they need to have a public meeting?
They did.
Did anybody show up?
One person.
Favor or against?
Against, I think.
It was kind of against, but then with the one occupant, he seemed to be more okay with it.
I think it was Paul Reed who
Yes.
came to our
Oh.
meeting.
And I wouldn't
Right.
say he was in favor of it, but he wasn't really against it either, just kind of made peace.
So then, what is our next step if we want to have the language modified? Does it have to go back to planning, or do we have the authority to modify it here with or without a public meeting? And that was about 3 questions,
Yeah,
so.
so you have the authority to modify it. If it's gonna be a very substantive modification, then it's a little bit more iffy, because then the argument could be made, well, there was no public hearing on that issue. This one's kind of borderline. I'm comfortable if the commission wants to make the change to 2 people. If they wanna do some drastic change to the ordinance, though, it should go back to the planning commission to review the recommendations from city commission and have them rework it and send it back to you. If you're just changing it from 1 person to 2 people or something like that, I think you're okay. If you're going much beyond that, I'd say send it back to the planning commission.
Thank you. Anybody? Further discussion? We do not have to make that change now. It can be at the meeting that we vote on it, correct?
Correct, yeah,
You
this
don't
is
have
just a study session.
30-day notice or anything on it,
No.
1 to 2?
Yep, if you want, you can make a motion to send it back to planning commission for them to consider your comments, or you can wait till the next meeting and deal with it then.
I think they did a good job, it's just that I don't know if it's practical what the 1 person. Okay, we'll move on. Public comment minutes, oh my God, Tammy. Minutes are before you, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Support.
Corrections,
Second.
additions, thank you, corrections, additions. Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Hearing none, motion carries to approve the minutes of the February 5th meeting. Now, We're down to public comment. Anybody have public comment unrelated to something on the agenda? Rosemary's not here either. Hope she's okay. Next, under general business, is a resolution approving a request to have the sale of alcohol for the Pride Big Rapids event. Who's speaking for Pride, Darren or both? If you'd use the podium in the mic, we get better recordings.
Okay. Hello, Commission. We are very, very excited about the possible change of moving this to the heart of the city. Pride has gone over a lot of different scenarios of what can happen, what won't happen. What we're thinking is that the number of the participants will increase this year. We're hoping for about 3,000 to 5,000, which would greatly increase the number, because even last year with the rain, we had about 3,000 people. The move to the city, Michigan Avenue, would also be more ADA compliant. That's the one downside to the park, is people with wheelchair are just simply not able to enjoy the festival and get to the vendors and things like that. So this would be something that would be an improvement. Our organization works with prides across the state. We also work with nationally, which is the United States area of Pride, which Pride Big Rapids gets to be a part of. And we are a part of the international organization called Interpride. So that governs prides across the whole world. And that's something that really is unique, I think, for a small town pride to be a part of. So we've done our homework on this. We are very eager to discuss this with you today and see where the commission lands. What questions do any of you have for us?
Bear away, Commission.
I wasn't on the commission last year, so I don't remember. So, where was it held last year?
North End.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Has anybody ever done an estimate on how many people our downtown can hold at a time? I've never seen it written anywhere. I mean, is it gonna get so big that it'll have to move to the fairgrounds? I mean, 5,000 sounds like a lot of people down there.
It's definitely concerning. I think one of our biggest events for turnout downtown is the Festival of Lights Parade, which makes me a little bit nervous from time to time because everybody has to be going into the road and see where the parade's coming. So when we have that many people downtown, we know that we run into issues with parking, vehicles then being towed and or disabled because they parked somewhere and left their lights on, and then that's hindering traffic from moving, all of these problems. 3,000 people in 2.5 blocks. It makes me nervous. Proper staffing for law enforcement. I know they have a security plan to have additional security and posse to help, but also having that many people with having to keep Maple or M20 open, and the light cycling and safety with the traffic flow. There's concerns with it being downtown.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, Danny, and you and I have certainly talked about that in your office. What we've noticed in Pride, and this is pretty typical of festivals, especially of this size, there is a flow pattern. So you'll have people that will come early in the morning. We decided to do our festival about from 12 to 8. But certainly people will be there at 11. And then those people, they enjoy the early part of the festival and then they leave, and then new people will come in, a different crowd for the evening. And we've seen that over the last few years that we've had the festival. So it won't be 3,000 people all at once. As I'm sure some of you know, I sit on the board for the Band of Locals, and we put together the Labor Day Festival. We did that on Michigan Street, and I think that Pride's intention is to follow the same model that I learned from the Band of Locals, which I would say we were close or to be about 3,000 people. I think that's probably fair. I know that it's difficult to get proper estimates for festivals of this, just because people are coming in from different angles and things like that. But I anticipate it'll be roughly about the same size, and we were able to manage those same numbers.
Okay.
I might just chime in on the scope of the conversation, just because I hear a lot of discussion about the moving of the event downtown, but on the agenda for this evening is the actual alcohol sale. And just, it's a multi-step process, is my understanding. So there's a special events permit, which I believe Pride Big Rapids has submitted to public safety, and then Danny will have the final say on that. That's not before the commission this evening. The request is they want to be able to sell alcohol with a temporary permit. Now, again, under state law, the Michigan Liquor Control Commission is the one that issues that, but they need a recommendation from public safety, and under city policy, because they're not the owner of the land, they also need a resolution from the commission. So that's what's before you, is that conditional approval subject to public safety approving that, and the ultimately the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approving the license. So, and then the special events permit is a separate issue that Danny is still investigating, it seems like, based on her comments.
But I think Danny likes to hear what the city commission and those in the audience want to say about it. In that resolution is not just a liquor permit, it's where the stage is, where that is, where, so by that resolution, you've opened it up to all of us.
Right, that's why we made it conditional in the resolution, is so that it's conditional upon Danny actually approving the location, because that would obviously change whether or not they have a beer tent downtown, as if they can have the event downtown, so.
I can tell you, the Festival of Lights this year, you couldn't park within a huge distance because the parking lots were all full, and you had to park on the streets all over the place. And I assume, but if they're having people coming in and going, that becomes less of a problem than a parade where you have to be there at a certain time. It was really packed. The parking issue was bad. Other comments?
I did,
Oh,
Commissioner James can go first.
well, mine's just real quick. On the permit, the liquor permit, does that cite the address?
It cites the location, but it says it's conditional upon, so your approval tonight in the resolution is conditional upon Danny ultimately approving the special event permit and recommending the Liquor Control Commission grant the alcohol sale.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
please.
Past 2 years, you've been in North End Park,
Yes.
and because of the way that it was set up, you couldn't have people park in the park. You did busing, correct?
That is
Are
correct.
you, have you
Restyling.
talked about any sort of busing this year so that it might alleviate some of the traffic concerns? I know there's not an ideal place. way North End
Unfortunately,
had.
yes, there's not an ideal location for a large group of people to be picked up and dropped off. For that reason, I think that we will not be using busing, although we had discussed possibly busing from Ferris for Ferris students and things,
Okay.
which would be dial-a-ride, but at this time, we do not think that it is, it's simply not really feasible.
I like the idea of partnering with Ferris. That's less cars. I mean, that's,
In the first two, I tend to go home early. I come early and go home early. Do you have much trouble at all with your beer purchase and rowdiness? I was never there for that, and I've never heard a complaint from the chief, so.
No, and I think the reason is, it's our bartenders and our staff. You know, these are the same people, the bars that support us, that lend us their staff. They're shooters in the Gypsy Nickel and the Sawmill Saloon. Like these are people that do this every single day. And we worked very closely with BRDPS to put together a reasonable plan and execute that plan to make sure that the people stay in the area, which we take very, very seriously. We want them to stay in the area while they're consuming the alcohol, in the area that we have sectioned off, in the snow fencing, which the city always has provided for us. Thankfully that they have done that. We have a drink limit to how much that they can consume, which is 3 alcohol. We do not serve liquor. It's just the beer, the wine, the seltzers, so that we can control the level of alcohol that people are consuming. And then we have spotters in the crowd, our security team, are trained to look for this sort of thing. And then if there are people that have overindulged, we have a plan to be able to remove them from the festival in a reasonable way.
The reason I asked was backhanded. I don't like the bar scene way down at the far end of the 1 block where they have to cross Maple Street to get to the activities mostly.
Well,
That's a worrisome because you can't close an MDOT road because of the festival.
No,
And
no,
that's
no.
a major.
We wouldn't ask that. Yeah.
So that doesn't worry you to have everybody crossing there on Maple Street. Because my suggestion was move it all down into the 1 big block and it'd be easier to patrol, it'd be easier to do all, that was just my thought. How do you review that?
Well, I think the board, as we have looked at the amount of spaces and things like that, has realized very, very quickly that the festival is just simply too large. Big Rapids, the Pride Festival, is a model for prides, and through Interpride, when we have our meetings and stuff like that, they ask Big Rapids questions about how did we all put this together and how do we maintain the number of people and people driving all over from the state to come to Big Rapids. Like we have a reputation that we've earned because of how that we put our festivals together. So I do really feel like 2 blocks is absolutely necessary, and I know that the board will back us up on this. We do have a backup plan. Pride is good with that. We do plan A, B, and C, which the only other reasonable thing that would have to be, with Danny's, nod to that, which would be moving the alcohol tent to where City Hall is. And that way, we'd probably move the stage over there too, so we can keep all the food, the alcohol, and the stage in one place. The only concern that we had was it would run afoul if it was too close to the parking there for Family Dollar, which has been explained to us. They want to remain in operation.
Dollar Tree too now.
Right.
So that whole parking lot's kind of tied up.
Right. So we would essentially, and it would fit within the space allowed, because our dimensions for the area would likely fit within City Hall. So that would be Plan B. But that is something that we would have to that I would have to make here and now. That decision because we are very close to the festival.
Sure. Other comments from the citizens? Anything? Anyone? Please.
Mayor, if your biggest concern about Maple Street would be a major issue because there is a light there and people walking across, if we could extend it maybe towards the Hemlock Road and have it all down here and have the main focal point be the parking lot and alleviate that southern block, if that's your biggest concern and if that would
I'm just
hold
one
us
person.
up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the board, like, if that would hold us up, I don't know why our board wouldn't vote to maybe.
Just to get more room is what you're saying.
Yeah, cause we just need the space is really the major issue, and during the day down that way, there's no businesses open really anyway that would necessarily benefit from us having it down there. So I would guess it wouldn't matter as long as we could still have the amount of space we would like.
Anything
And then
for-
we can just not worry about the MDOT, Maple Street.
Anything from Heather or Chief Haynes regarding that particular issue? Makes no difference. Then I'll let it lie. It just worries me with people crossing the road, but they cross the road with all our festivals, so.
They do, and
They
they
do.
certainly did on Labor Day. And I would like to remind us, Proof Technologies Corps is going to be backing us up. The Sheriff's Posse, which we have talked to on multiple occasions about them coming, and then Pride Big Rapids has our own personal security with members who are part of Marines, and they did this.
Yeah,
So
I got it.
yeah.
I just always worry. Anybody else? Shall we call the question? Is there a motion for the
So
proposal
moved.
for the
Second.
liquor license? Motion and second. Questions further? Hearing none? Tammy?
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
On the subject, but off the subject, does
Please.
anybody know how many people were downtown at Labor Day?
I wish
Does
we-
anybody ever do any kind of
He's on the
count?
band of locals.
Well, yeah.
Who does the count?
I know.
Yeah, I'm
Who
the
does do the
secretary for
count?
the Band of Locals.
You have any
Um,
idea?
Yeah, it was very, very difficult to estimate. We're thinking it's probably going to be about Pride's number that we had before, and we're anticipating that same number of roughly about 2,000 to 3,000 people.
I mean, we were down there and it truly was crowded on both sides of
Yes,
everything that was set up.
It truly was, but that does show that that Big Rapids can pull together a festival. You know.
Thank you. All right, let's keep moving on the agenda. Next is, we go to Heather Bowman's and Fleece and Vanderbrink's programs. The first is a proposal to work on the master plan of the wastewater facility. We heard a little talk from Scott Hall last time, he gave us a presentation. And this is a resolution to have the money to get going with that plan, is that correct, Mark?
That's correct, Mayor, and this is something we haven't done in over a decade. Right when Fleece and Vandenbrink came on the team, which was 10 or 12, I think, somewhere in that time frame. We did one initially, and as we go back and look at that document, it really very closely mirrors all the work we've done between then and now. I mean, it's been a very useful tool. I think it will be a useful tool as we analyze this whole bond issue project that we may or may not undertake. So this is the next step that Scott recommends, and yeah, we have it here for your consideration.
Anyone have questions regarding that? Heather, do you wanna add, or? No? Is there a motion for the resolution to approve the proposal from Fleece for the wastewater treatment master plan?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there further questions?
I have a question,
Please.
Mayor. I did not see where updating our GIS was included in this. Is it part of another phase, or is it not part of the master plan?
It's, the master plan is more a planning document, there's no GIS updates that would be associated with it.
Or what's the other thing we have? We have a asset management system, don't we?
We have the SAW grant that we completed, and we're gonna be doing the water portion, and that'll be the GIS update.
Okay. But don't we have an asset management system that we use? Okay, so that would be separate from this.
This is more of a planning tool.
Okay.
So you have the asset management, plan that was done 6 years ago, maybe? That involves some GIS work on the collection side. But this is more the planning tool to think outside of what you currently have. So it's think about, are there new treatment methods, are there different approaches that we wanna look at, are there different, volumes of wastewater we need to consider going forward over the next 20 years, so more a planning tool than.
I think I'm confusing it with the information that we got last week about what the full scope included.
Right, there was SCADA work in there, I think we're kind of overlapping some things. But this is to chart the course for all, because what we really have to do, we have a, sort of a skeleton of what we think should happen, but this will help us boil down the actual things that need to happen next and what sequence those would go. This is gonna be a very useful guide for us for that work.
Is one of the plans to move the whole plant somewhere other than on valuable land right on the river? Didn't somebody talk about that years back? I remember, I've lived here a long time. Moved the plant because of its.
Water plant, Mayor, I don't know.
No,
the
we
waste-
talked to what wastewater was.
Wastewater too?
Yeah.
That would, there would be a bigger number associated with that
A
review.
lot bigger number.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
Well, we have other waterfront property that we'd like to develop.
Yes, we would, wouldn't we? Okay, thank you. We have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Clerk Gillis?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Ackley,
Yes.
Yes. Next is another resolution related to our brothers at Fleece and Vanden Brink for the replacement of the Woodward Avenue culvert. Where's the city limit line there, Heather, compared to that culvert?
Right there at that very location.
So the township's paying for half of this?
Actually, this is a project that we are working with County Road Commission.
Oh, and they're supplying,
So we do the small urban funding program. We typically sit at the table together and agree to share the pot of money in terms of who's gonna have what project completed. So we sat at the table with, Tim and his staff, and, we were in agreement that that's a valuable project that needs to be addressed. So rather than dividing the funds, we work together in 2025 to address the Woodward culvert.
so this is a 2025, they just wanna engineer it. I just like to always see the county and the townships help us with the projects as much as possible. That is right in front of the church there?
It's just east of the church. And the south side of the road's in the city, and the north side of the road's in the township.
Right.
What'd you say? I'm
South
sorry.
side what?
The south side of Woodward Avenue's in the city. And the north side is in the township. That's it's a divider.
I would think it'd be east-west, I don't know.
Woodward Avenue runs
Goes
east-west, so the
You don't
land on
divide
the
it.
south.
South, north.
Right. Am I saying it wrong?
Yeah, anyway,
Yeah, it is east-west.
Well, the road runs east and west, the land on the south side of the road.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, we're not communicating very well, it doesn't matter. And Mayor, when we go out to bid and we have the final numbers, the small urban funding may or may not cover it all. And that would be certainly a time to approach our partners to say, how can we do this? Because all the obligation is not the city's.
that's where I was going.
Right,
with that.
it's not, and so, but we do have the small urban funding that is a shared resource between the county road commission and the city, and where they'll do a project, then we'll do a project, they'll do a project, then we'll do a project.
So Fleece, though, we pay Fleece, that doesn't get divided.
Well, we
with
have
the
to get
county
it
enough.
engineered to know what we're dealing with, what the scope of the work is, how much the cost estimate to be able to go out to bid. That's where we need their expertise.
All right, any other questions?
I have some questions,
Please.
Mayor. So this only gets us to preliminary design, right? It doesn't include construction documents and construction?
This carries you through final design.
Okay, cause it says we'll prepare a separate proposal for construction phase.
Yeah, these funds are, federal small urban funds, so they come through the state. And so this proposal is to get it all the way through the design process and the bidding process, And then once a contractor is awarded a contract, then we would present a proposal for the construction phase services.
Okay.
Anything? Did we have a motion for that already? It's Tammy? Okay,
So moved.
Second.
second, for the Fleece and Vanderbrink for the, proposal replacement of the Woodward Avenue culvert. Tammy?
Johnson,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Epley,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Next is a resolution approving the proposal from Fleece for the design, bid, and construction phases of the wastewater treatment plant east screw pump replacement. Could he just be on staff? I mean,
I was thinking the very
tomorrow.
same thing. Why aren't we hiring him? I think it would cost us less money. I do.
That's where
I believe you require support staff.
okay, Mark, what's this one?
Well, I hesitate to get into talking about east and west screw pump,
Yeah,
but we replaced the west screw pump, some years
21.
ago. Yeah,
21.
couple years ago. And as I think the commission is very much aware, there is almost nothing more important than the water that lifts, or the equipment that lifts the water from where it is received at the wastewater plant into the process. And so those are the screw pumps. We have two of them, and it's redundant, but it has to be, right? If one goes down, we would be in a major problem. We would be facing a major problem. The one that is needing of repair, we've known about this, we've planned for this. Yes, it may be included in a future bigger project, is the one that we were talking about last meeting. But this is one that we won't be able to avoid no matter how we structure paying for it. And so that engineering won't be wasted if we did it now on an individual basis versus waited until we did it as part of the bigger project. And so that's why we're bringing that tonight, because this is right at the forefront of what we believe needs to happen next. And really want to get going to make sure that we have that redundancy in the plant that we need.
thank you, Mark. Todd, where's that screw from?
What's that?
Where's the screw from? I'm setting you up.
I believe they're,
It's like the Netherlands.
Netherlands, isn't it?
That was in
So,
Europe, yeah.
So they ship it over on it. And how long does it take to make it? So we have to order the thing and then it takes like years to get here?
takes a while.
Okay.
They don't just make those anyway.
Why don't they make them in the United States of America? Jeez. And how much is it? $300,000 for that screw?
Well, that was what it was last time.
So
I
now
think.
it's 600
Yeah,
probably.
probably.
And it is, if you think ahead, I watched the last one go in, and it's a big crane, and it's a big screw, as long as this room. It's quite exciting. Good pictures, if the Pioneer wants to take good pictures. It's a doozy. All right, here we go. Thanks, Todd. We got more of you coming, so. Do we have a motion for the resolution approving the proposal to construct the plans for the east screw pump?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Questions further?
I just have a.
Yes, ma'am,
You
please.
go first. Me?
Okay, just, why did we change the account number? It was, in the sewer replacement fund originally, correct? And now we changed it to sewer operating?
It was supposed to be in the sewer. Jake gave the wrong number.
It was supposed to be in the sewer operating. So he gave you the replacement fund instead, and so that's why we had changed number. Got it, that's all I had, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I caught that too.
Sure you did.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this proposal includes design and construction phase and bid. What is different for this screw pump from the one that you guys did a number of years ago? Like, there's not a lot of design to it, or there is? Like, can't we
Still-
just press
still do-
copy and paste?
There's still design involved with it, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the design cost does reflect, in this proposal, does reflect the economy of, that we've already
Already don't run.
the issues before, but we still have to look at it, and we still have to prepare the
Yep,
documents and
thank you.
Does Eagle approve this one?
yes, they would have to permit it again.
Next. Oh, we didn't vote. We have to vote on that? Okay. Did we have a motion, Tammy? Let's vote, Tammy.
Simmons,
Yes.
Epley,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, turn the page and you'll see another. I don't know whether Fleece is building a building or not. I'm wondering now. Are you building a new building down there? Todd, is that?
I think I'm gonna spread them out a little further next time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Need to get
'Cause
them
we
to
ain't
have
done yet.
headquarters. Maybe
What?
they need to have headquarters here.
There you go. We got a lot for you. You want a headquarters up here? No, they have it at Meyer Garden.
Oh,
Resolution approving proposal from Fleece for the bidding and construction phase of the water treatment plant raw water influent piping modifications. Somebody make the motion, then we'll go after that. Anybody wanna move that one?
So moved, Mayor.
second.
In second, now let's discuss it. Todd?
This is a proposal for the bidding and construction side. You already authorized us to do the design and permitting with the intent of having it on the shelf, ready to go. It's now, we've got plans, it's been permitted, let's get it constructed. And my understanding, I'm not the expert on it, but this is to help reduce some of the corrosion that we're seeing through the water system, get that dissolved oxygen out of it.
But the dissolved oxygen thing was removed already, right? We did this a couple years ago.
We bypassed it.
We bypassed it, so now you're gonna tear it all out and, you know, make it new. Questions? Anything, Mark? No?
Nothing, Mayor.
Karen?
No, Mayor.
Anyone? We could call the question, please.
Epley,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Next is a resolution accepting project authorization for the City of Big Rapids operating formula for rural areas program. Doesn't say anything on there what it is, you know, for, but Mark, what's it for?
So this is the federal funding for Dial-A-Ride. We get 18% of our funding from the federal government, and it counts to about, what, 130, just over $132,000. So we have to, you know, this may seem like fleece issues or something, that you see them all the time, but you have to apply for the funding, and then when you get the funding, you have to have a resolution to accept the funding, and it's a lot of steps, so it makes it sort of which one's which. This one's the federal portion of our funding for.
We do this every year, or how often?
We do it every year. We have to apply every year, we have to accept it every year, and, yeah, it's an important part of our budget.
Very good. Is there a motion? Oh, we did the motion. We do the motion.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Now, our parliamentarian wouldn't like the way we're not reading the whole thing each time we
Oh.
move or something, but let's not.
I believe she said the way we conducted our meetings
Was fine.
was fine, Mayor.
Somewhere in the, you'd think in the resolution, you'd have some hint that it's the dial-a-ride, you know? You can't read that and get a hint of that.
First paragraph says Big Rapids Island.
Well, and the second paragraph refers to the local transportation.
Not on the
Not the
thing
big on
here.
you.
I believe DART stands for dial-a-ride.
Agenda.
Oh, you mean on here?
Yes, that's what I use.
Sometimes I usually put dart at the end.
Golly,
Sorry.
I read the whole thing, trust me. 12 pages of interesting reading. Do we have did we do the motion, Tammy? Could you call the question?
James,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Epley,
Yes.
Gunther.
Yes.
Oh, mercy.
Oh, another dial-a-ride one, Mark.
Mayor, so this is the local advisory council of the Dial-A-Ride, and I'll really credit Dawn. I think she is, Dawn Fuller is the one who has spearheaded this idea that we would have a program in which folks that are over 80 years old or that are active or members of the military or veterans who have served would have the ability to have a very much reduced opportunity to use their Dial-A-Ride service. So you have a revised resolution. It has different language in because there was kind of a back and forth about does veterans, does that cover folks that are serving now? And so we wanted to clarify that. The other piece was that you may have wondered about is, well, why charge $1? I think maybe last time we had $2. And,
Yeah, it's
and
like,
then we
come
said,
on.
well, why don't we just make it 0? Well, we can't make it 0, as Brad has informed us. And Commissioner James said to me earlier, we ought to really track this. So we put in some language that we would track it and then report back at the end of the year in terms of how many people used it, and then that we can translate into, are we giving up any significant piece of funding that should be considered? But it seems like a good thing to try. I think it's on an annual basis that we'll revisit it, and but happy to answer any questions if you have.
What does the average person pay for a Dial-A-Ride?
$2.50.
So we're jumping through all this to make it $2?
No, they would pay $1 and be able to ride for the whole year for free.
After they pay their
They
$1?
would
For
pay-
the pass.
They would buy the
$1
gold
for the-
pass for free. Or, well, buy the gold.
Pretty expensive, $250 a ride now, yeah.
Right, be $1 a year instead of $250 a ride.
Yes, thanks.
Especially when considering it's one ride there and then another ticket to get
Oh,
home.
do they, is that how they do it?
Yeah.
No
So-
round
so like
trip,
the-
no round trip
And so if you
ticket.
have to go to the grocery store and the doctor's appointment, those dollars can add up very quickly when
they?
you're in those limited budgets.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for the resolution for Dial-A-Ride Golden Pass?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Yes, please.
Actually, it somewhat relates. My name is Zach Dickerson. I live in Green Charter Township. I talked with Mark about some ideas I had. I have a plane here at your airport. I keep it here, very happy. But while we're talking about free dollar things and you guys being a gas, do you know all the job creators and airplane owners are provided a free car by your city? Why don't you charge for that and use the money to pay for the poor people that need the help, with the Dial-A-Ride? I'd give you $20. I think anyone at the airport could give you $20. Why don't you charge for your darn rental car?
Your mayor's has asked that question. Mark, you give him the answer.
No, there's no good answer. I mean, it's the way we've always done it. That's the answer everybody hates.
I mean, even if you charged $1 and
Right.
had us use our
Yeah.
credit cards that covered the damage, it would save the city money.
It's a good point, Mayor. We
Who
have,
fusses over that? There's gotta be a fusser, or we would have done
I'm
that.
sure there's a fusser, but, we have fussers over most things. So, we have airport, items on the agenda like crazy. Next meeting, our March meeting is full of airport stuff, and we should add that one. I don't have a good reason why we do it that way. I don't think a good reason exists of why we do it that way.
I think it was the way Mike Lafferty had set it
Yeah.
up, and it
Was
was
it?
just, welcome to Big Rapids, we're here to help you.
Right.
Here's a car you can use, they drive it around, come in the city, spend money, do stuff. That's
Yeah, we
where it all
create-
stemmed
Yes.
from.
I guess-
Go ahead.
No, I understand we create jobs, we do it, but we can pay for it. And, if you're having trouble justifying giving, the less fortunate a free ride, charge us.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. I didn't believe we did that,
It's, I was like, well,
but I
okay.
just shut up because
a lot
that's
of
the way we
airports
always
do
done
do
it.
it. But with you guys being publicly owned, every time I take off the runway and look at the trailer park underneath me and think about the fact that they're paying for it, I feel a little icky.
There you go, Mark.
Yeah. Appreciate your comments.
Did we have a motion, Tammy? We do? Call the question, please.
Jackson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Now, the next resolution is not for Fleece, it's for the mayor. All the mayor appointments that we're doing this time are all listed there. And I don't really wanna go over every person, we could do it en masse, they say. Right, Tammy? We do that all at once, all of them. So is there a resolution on the mayoral appointments to the boards and commissions?
So moved.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Questions? Hearing none. Tammy?
Simmons?
Yes.
Hepley?
yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Before we go into a short work session, is there any unscheduled business for the commission? Or from the public? Anyone? Because we were here last time till 9:15, we're gonna quickly go to the next work session. We are going, unless you have a reason, we'd like to just stay up in our seats. Michelle, is that okay with you? Okay, fire away, Michelle. Thank you for coming.
Tammy, you want me to go to the podium?
Yes, please.
Dickerson, Dickerson. Zachary. That pre-car stuff. Outrageous, right?
Oh my God.
So I'm here
Sorry, we were just waiting.
to give you an update on the census. We applied, to do a full census recount, and we got the cost back of $490,156. So after that, we reapplied to the census to only do the specialized area of Ferris and a couple of the surrounding census blocks that house a lot of students, where we feel they house a lot of students. And that application came back at costing us $393,748. So not a big difference compared to the entire city. So there's a big price tag on recounting the community to reestablish our census numbers to what we feel they should be. Besides the price tag, there's also a very convoluted path through the state to receive the funding that we're missing with the new census numbers if we were to do it. So the only path available is we do the census count, we do the census, we get that number of our population, then we have to ask a state legislator to support a bill to go through the state to fund us for the missing amount
Each year.
each year. Which we'd have to do we probably wouldn't be able to do the census count till, it definitely wouldn't be this spring, and they said it may be next fall they could fit us in. And that was in November, so it's probably even longer wait now, and we wanna do it while Ferris students are here, so it'd probably be another spring from now, so it's going to be another year, but after that, probably
26,
6.
if we get it.
If we get it.
And Mark, how did the MML say that it goes, their lobbyists, if we say, yeah, we're gonna do that, we're gonna lobby Kuntz or someone, doesn't have to be Kuntz, your guy, could be any rep. How does that shake out?
It's a good question. In a world of divided government, you might, or Brad might know that better than I. I mean, we would have to have those introduce a specific bill each year. You've already touched on that. I went down and I was asking the fellow from MML whether or not we could change state law, and that seemed like that was almost impossible if I remember right. So So you're stuck with this idea that every year you have to ask for a special handout for Big Rapids. I mean, it isn't that. It would be money that is due to us. I'm just not sure the legislators would treat it that way. We would just have to ask, however we were thinking the best path would be, whether it's our rep or senator. We'd have to ask them each time, and that just seems like they might not do it one year, right? Well, maybe 1 year, maybe 1 year it gets voted down, or maybe 2 years it gets voted down, or you can't find a sponsor. I mean, there's just all these variables. Even if the count accomplishes what we think it would or could or should, we just run into too many hurdles, Mayor, for staff to be comfortable. And Carla prepared for us a more concise document that you have at the table that shows what we're losing, which is substantial, which would essentially pay for, 1 year's losses. It pays for the ability to recount, but staff is not comfortable making that decision. And I don't think is appropriate or even possible, but this really is your folks' decision. We invited the Census Committee here tonight, just for a variety of different schedule conflicts, but I mean, they understand.
You've talked to all the committee members?
Yeah.
Through email, we've had
Okay.
some discussion, so.
The question I had for Carla was, why in 21 was it 294 loss, but in 22 it was only 162?
I had the same question.
The state revenue sharing, that portion of it is based on sales. So this is just, how it shook out.
Has nothing to
That
do
was
with
our
that.
portion.
That 5.9% in there?
What's that?
The 5.9% raise from 1 year to the next because of whatever?
That, the 5.9% raise was for 22-23.
So that's why we lost less money, one of the reasons?
Yes, I mean, cause it's based on sales, so that's how the sales shook out.
Sales tax.
Sales tax.
That's the statutory revenue sharing is the state's distribution of a portion of their sales tax. And it's a formula. I don't know how they came
But
up with it.
obviously that can't just be, from 294 to 162 is a big difference. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's more than 5.9% is what you're saying. And I don't know, you had talked to us earlier about some special public safety.
Well, that
issues
is
in
in
there.
there.
That's
That's
not part
below.
of the
That's
sales
below,
tax.
okay.
That's part of
What do you say, Lorraine? Does that make any sense?
the- Well,
I mean, why?
Yes and no.
I'd like to hear both.
Well, I mean, I looked at it and I just thought it was really strange from going from, that's $132,000. And,
Mayor, my best guess, and this is a guess, is the formula that existed created more funding.
That's
Right?
why we
The
lost less.
existing formula went up, and they raised percentage-wise
5.9%.
that formula.
so the formula you think changed from 2021 to 2022?
I think it
Yes.
does, because it's based on what sales tax
Plus
revenues
the
they have.
5.9, whatever.
Yeah,
Where are you
and then
getting the
they-
5.9%?
That was,
I don't know.
on the state website.
Oh.
that's how, what they adjusted sort of cost of living, but it was, the formula itself created more funding. Does that make sense? That's what I
So-
think happened. But
Yes, but then what's the projection for 2023?
I haven't heard.
I don't know that.
We don't have the full projection yet from the state.
So we don't really know.
It's a,
I mean,
we're,
I'm getting
They,
at
they
is that
kinda
it's less
estimate on a,
in 22 than 21, so it's less motivation for us to spend $400,000.
Well, it's a hard sell.
Yeah.
It's a very hard sell to support something like that, not knowing exactly what it would get us, and if we would continue to get it every year. It's just a hard sell.
Please,
Mayor,
I'd
it's a
like
lot
to
of
hear
money.
what all the commissioners say
Okay.
on this one.
So, I would agree it's a hard sell, based on the numbers we have in front of us. But I had a question, and I don't know if anyone would have the answer to this. Are there other communities out there who have gone through this process, historically speaking, and had to be in the position to petition to get their funds? And if so, what was their success rate?
I mean, I asked at the Zoom meeting with the treasurer's office, the same question.
Yeah,
We can't be amending this, and she says, there's none in progress right now.
so they
So it
wouldn't
must not
release,
be real easy to do.
they wouldn't release historical data then on it, so.
There's nothing going on, there isn't one.
Nobody's-
We have historical data on who has done special census
Yeah,
back.
that we have, but we don't have how the money then is translated into
Well, but I know, but they
cash.
haven't done them. In the state of Michigan, they have not been done.
So it would be
And Iowa,
paving a new path, so to speak.
Yeah, the state of Michigan, going back at least 30 years,
She-
are no,
She just said, I don't know.
yeah, they don't, because they've never had anybody do them.
And if memory serves, you also asked about towns that have colleges, so what,
Yeah.
in similar situations like Houghton
Yes.
and they are not doing special
Western.
census either, right? So,
Yeah.
that's interesting that they weren't, and they're in the same boat. I mean, theoretically, they're in the same boat that Big Rapids is, that they had college students that were gone for COVID and didn't count in their census.
I would have thought every state-owned university would be going through what we're going through, but they're not. At least that's what they told us.
Has anybody corroborated that?
Well, I have. The minute we got our census numbers, I called the city of Mount Pleasant. And I can tell you, they said, we think that's accurate. I had that conversation.
For Mount Pleasant, I would.
mean, I've, pay attention to Marquette, which their numbers didn't go down, but see, every university handled COVID different. Like Mason was there, my son Mason went to Northern at the time, and he didn't come home. See, they all did it a little different too, so, and Marquette's numbers went down, but not like ours. Mount Pleasant's went down even more, but they think that they're true numbers. They didn't have any, I don't know that they aren't, but that's how their city staff felt. I called them first thing.
I'm gonna ask Commissioner a similar question. She might not wanna answer it. What's the chance, Commissioner, that the Ferris enrollment is down enough that if you did a recount today, it might just be a little lower than we thought? Or no? Okay.
No,
You hear that on
everything-
the street, that Ferris,
I think we
enrollment's
could
down.
certainly reach out and see what their numbers are, but my understanding is that our numbers are about where they were pre-COVID. No, we'd wanna verify that
Well-
100%, but.
Mark, would you like something official from the city commission that says we don't recommend the city staff to pursue the census issue, or do you wanna just let it hang there in case something breaks? What does anybody think on that one, Lorraine?
Well,
Anything?
Go ahead.
No, you go this.
Go ahead.
So census is done by the federal government, right? The recensus that we would pay $300,000 for is done by the federal government.
Yep.
But somehow, it's not the federal government where we get our money from. So I'm just talking through this logically here. So the federal government can't hold the state accountable for paying us for the census that we just paid the federal government to do. And there's no mechanism in place beyond going to somebody every year at the state level, right? Not the federal
Until the
level.
next census.
It's not the federal level
Correct.
that we have to go to this for. And what I'm hearing too is that there have been no cities in Michigan who have done this, not even done this successfully, but done this.
That's
So if
the way
we
I
were to
read it.
look at examples from other states, it wouldn't be applicable because they don't have our
Right,
same
yeah.
laws, right?
one state had, was it Iowa?
Iowa does them all the time,
All the
which
time,
is
so they
fascinating.
must have a
yeah.
very easy process in their state legislation to shift the funding because there were
Well,
multiple cities.
Yeah, we had the letter from the government saying, yes, we see where your students are from, we got help from Ferris, the number was published, and they don't accept it, because they're not gonna use that to change our census.
They being the
Feds.
feds. It's, and if I look at this over, what is it? 5.3 million over 10 years, is that what the loss equals out to?
Well, they never give
1 year
retro,
loss of,
they never give retroactive, so you can break it in half, they won't go back
that
and
was
give you
my
the
other
loss.
question, is
They
that
will.
there's no
Correct.
retroactive.
They will not.
Right, but we still,
We would have gotten,
we,
yes.
we may have, but It's still 5.3 million over 10 years, right? And we've only lived through 2 of those years.
Yeah,
About right.
that's about right. It's a huge loss to the city, but. Mayor, my tendency is to say, oh, we're fine. The benefit of doing a formal action would be that it, 20 years from now, if this happens again, it's easily tracked by whoever's trying to search it. That's the benefit. I haven't heard anybody, I don't think there's a big, disparity on how you folks feel. It doesn't sound like that, so that would be another reason to do it.
We'd be really hard pressed to take a vote right now to spend $500,000 to do a recensus. I just
Absolutely.
don't think I could vote that way. Would others agree, or do you think that anybody wanna take the chance?
Could we maybe make a motion to set it aside pending any future information that would be beneficial?
Based on,
So we can bring it back.
We can always bring it back.
Yeah.
for the
This is not a
parliamentarian, you
vote.
could do a motion to postpone to an indefinite date, or
Yes,
indefinite.
I guess that's what I was looking for, something
That's
that,
how she thought it's the most usable.
yeah. So it's a decision for the records,
I
but.
like that, the way that sounds too, we're really smart.
You might also consider a resolution for the next census to put up bars on the road so nobody can leave town.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you're on
Yeah,
this
one-way
census,
game.
Karen, not
And
until,
offer free ice
30.
cream for those who.
it takes 2 years to get around to the new census, so it's 2 years in.
There's nothing I like about this conversation.
No, it is
There's nothing that I
But
have
the
to say. And
marijuana-
again,
The
there is
marijuana
something
might
positive
go
I
up
have to
this
say.
year, is the rumor. Have
No.
we gotten it yet? Have we heard yet, Carla?
Comes in March or April.
Yeah.
Should be any minute now, right? And the paper said that sales across the state are up. Somebody did that article for y'all, quite a bit, so.
We only have 12 active.
Right.
And it's based on the number of.
Oh, we're down to 12?
Well, yeah, but when one
Is
closes,
that what,
another.
is
We
that
had
what it
17
was certified
17
in
before.
September?
I asked
Oh, so we're gonna
Joey
lose a
today how many
lot.
we had open.
Right, but it says the end of September is when they count the licenses.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's how.
All
So it
right.
might be
Mayor.
slightly higher than the 12. Right.
I do find I have something positive to say about
Amen,
the
go
census.
for it.
And that is that I so appreciate city staff and all of their diligent work in learning everything to get us to the point where we can make an informed decision and feel comfortable and right in the decision. So I do have something positive I found.
I don't know that I feel that it's even fair. Fairness is a real big thing in the world, and this isn't fair. The kids are home for COVID, and we don't get our money, and it's not fair. That can go on the record, Tammy.
That begs the question of all the places they went to, if they got a boost in numbers because of.
Yeah, that would
See,
be the
that one of
flip
the big-
side of it.
Right.
One of the big problems
Yeah,
was
but I
that
don't
Michigan
think-
lost a rep this year,
Yeah.
right? Michigan lost one of its US representatives. Now, you're gonna go back and do all these little census changes, what if it pushes you over? And they will not change that, that
Yeah.
is not changeable until the next official full census. So Michigan took a hit. All right, anything else for the good of the city? Adjourn.
Whoa. Whoa.
There we go.
Authorities.
I hated that